Good day coders, this is Buggeray and we are back with another video where we simplify these coding concepts. So in this video, we'll be modifying our to-do list API to actually add CRUD operations for our user tasks, right? So this is when our user wants to add a task, delete, view, yeah, and so on. So if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So first and foremost, what we need to do is actually to go to our controllers and actually create our task controller. So we do that by right clicking there, add, and clicking on controllers, and we want to add this controller, right? So that's an API, right? So we'll call this tasks. So this is task controller, and we'll just remove all these, right? Because we don't need that, right? So what we then need to do is actually come to our user controller, right? You can just check this out in our previous videos, right, where we actually did the user authentication, right? So this is to add our dependency injection, and we don't need this I configuration because we're not going to use that, right? All we need to use is our data context. So we'll remove all that and actually now import from our modules, right? And this is going to be changed to use the constructor for our tasks controller. So yeah, that's what we need currently. So first and foremost, what we'll do is actually start by creating a task so the user can actually create a task. So how we do that is actually add a method which is called a public async tasks I action result, and this will be create a task, right? We want to create a task, right? We want to create a user's task, and what we need is actually to pass in a body. So we're going to get that from the request body, and we're going to use a task DTO, right? And which is task. So over here, then this will just return okay with just now, right? So now what we need to do is actually now to actually add like some declarators, right? So we know this is going to be an HTTP post, right? This is going to be a post method, and we want to have the route pointing to add task, right? So this is going to be an add task endpoint, and we see now we don't have actually our task DTO, so we need to add a folder for DTOs. Come here, add folder. This folder is going to be for our DTOs, and we'll add in like a class over here. So this class will be named our task DTO, right? So that's all we need. So for our task DTO, we'll actually copy our task from our models, right? So that's all we need. Copy that, and we'll come here and paste this, right? So now we actually need to specify like some sort of like our declarators of what's actually required from our actual task, right? So what we need when we create our task is actually our required, right? We wanna say that our user ID is required, right? Because in order for a task to be created, a user has like a task, right? And then another thing, a task needs a task ID, which is required, and a task description, and that tasks the created date is not needed because we're gonna auto generate that, right? So it's gonna take the current date when the request is actually made. So yeah, that's all we need currently. Okay, moving back to now task controller, we want to now import this. Yes. So once we've actually imported that, so the first thing that we want to do is actually authorize. So we want to add a layer of protection to our actual endpoint, right? Only for authorized users to use this endpoint. So how we do that is add this authorize right, declarator. And in order for you to use this, is you can check out my video which I made on JWT, right? Yeah, and you will see what you need to add in order for this to work, right? So first and foremost, now we want to get like our current user so that we can capture the user's ID. So to get the current user, you'll say now a user ID, right, which is coming from our HTTP context, right? Dot, we want to get the user dot find first value, which you're getting it from our claims, which is now the user ID, right? And then we now need to import that security claims. And then we see now we have an error. This is because our user ID is coming in as a string, but now we need to convert that into an integer. So how to convert that? We'll say convert dot to int 32. Wanna convert to int 32, right? This is what we need, and yeah, that's all we need. We want to close this off, right? Okay, now we'd want to check over here that if our user is equal to now, or our user our user ID, right? Our user ID is equal to now, right? Or user ID is less than equal to 0. Right, this is just an extra layer of protection, right? And then over here we'll just say user ID and then return bad request, and this bad request would say this user is not allowed, right, to use this endpoint, right? Okay, so that's first what we also need. And then another thing is actually we'd also want to check if like our tasks equal to null, and then we'll also like return like a bad request, right? Return bad request, and this bad request is say you cannot create an invalid task, right? Or you can just say a task with an invalid data, right? So yeah, that's what we need currently. So then the next thing is, so we've got our user ID and we've got that, so we want to now create our task, right? What task? So this is going to be our new task, which is equal to task, right? To a new task. And you need to ensure that you're using this task from our models, right? Because C# has like an inbuilt task function or something like that, or class should I rather say, right? Hence you can see here, right? So this task is a reference to actually like a task that a user creates in their to-do list, right? So what we need to now add is like a task ID, right, which is gonna be equal from the task ID, right? And then we want to say we want to add a user ID, which is from the task.user ID, right? No, this is coming from our current user's ID, right? And then we want to use our task description, which is coming from our task description, right? So task description, we want to have our created date, which is coming in from date time now, right? This is the current date time. And then we want to have our scheduled date, and here we're gonna have like some sort of like a ternary operation. So what we'll do is actually to check if our date time is not equal to now. So if our date time is not equal to now, we'll just pass in our date scheduled. So question mark task dot scheduled date, or we'll just put in a null, right? The same with the completed. We don't need to close that off, right? So completed date is also like date task dot completed date is not equal to now. So if it's not equal to now, then what we want to say is task dot completed date, right? And then we'll close this off, right? And then what we want to do is actually now we want to like add this task, right? This task dot tasks dot add, right? This new task. Want to add this new task to that, and then we want to await our save. Context dot save. That's right. Then we want to wrap all this into like a try catch. So try, right? Then we're gonna catch our exception. So this will return, if we get like an exception, this should return like a bad request, and then ex.message. Yeah, this should return like a bad request with the exception message. And now we'll remove that and say after we've saved, we want to just return like an OK message saying you have successfully created a new task, right? We have successfully created a new task. Yeah, which is what we actually needed, right? Let me just tap that. Yeah, so this is fine for actually creating our task, right? So we can actually go about testing this endpoint, right? So let's come over here and actually see. So if we want to actually add a new task, right? This should actually complain. Yeah, this gives us like some sort of like an error saving that, right? No, this was supposed to give us like an authorized, right? So post, let's see, tasks, is this even running? This is a bad request. While saving the entity, see the inner exception that you have been trying. Okay, let's see. All right, let's come here. All right, so let's come here to our actual Swagger and actually see what we get over there, right? We've got tasks.add task, right? So if we come here, right, and have task, add task, right, which is coming from the API, right? Okay, so let's try to log in, right? So if we log in, we get that, right? And then if we try to actually add this token over here, so now let's try to actually add task. So an error occurred while saving an entity's changes, right? So let's come over here and actually see why this error actually occurred. So we are we are trying to get this task ID, and that's actually auto generated for us. So we don't need that, and let's now test it out, right? So if we actually try to, okay, we actually try to add a task now, this should work. Again, now what happened? So this says a task. No, man. That was supposed to come from like our task title. Task title, right? This is supposed to come from our tasks title. And our task title is required, so I don't know why. Let's see. Let's go. Let's try to rerun this. This is a post method, and that's coming in from that task body, and yeah, let's actually see what happens now. Yeah, you have successfully created a task, a new task, right? So what would happen if we actually removed this, right, token, right? So if that was empty and we save that and we actually tried to add a task and just say software engineer, right, engineer, and we try to add that, that will say unauthorized, right? Because we need to log in, copy the token, and actually paste it in our bear token, save that, and if we do try to now add in a task, it should say the new task has been added, right? Okay, that works. So now let's move on to our next endpoint, right, which is actually to update like a task. So what we need is to say authorize, right? Oh, what we can also do is actually authorize this whole tasks API, right? So how this would work is if we authorize this, we can now remove all the authorized from those endpoints. Then yeah, so we don't need this authorized because now the whole controller is authorized, right? So what we'll need to do is actually now add a declarator for HttpPut because we want to update, right? And then we'll say public async task I action results, right? I action results. We want to update a task. So we want to update user tasks, all right? And that's also gonna accept like some sort of like a body. And yeah, so I want to have like a try catch. Right, catch, and that's like gonna say an exception ex and return bad request. I'm gonna return a bad request and say ex.message, the exception message. gonna be what's gonna be printed out, right? Right, so if that doesn't work, otherwise if everything is good, wanna just have an okay message being printed out there, and this is coming from our task, right? Yes. So we'll need to copy some stuff over there, which is this first couple of few things over here. So this will say, yes, get the current user, right? Let me just copy this, right? Get current user's ID, right? Current user ID, right? Just trying to comment that so that's clear enough, right? This is actually to check if the task is null, and now we've got like the same logic as this, right? Over here, because we want to like create now a task, but before we actually create a task, we want to see if the task actually exists in our DB, right? So our task ID, right? Now that will task our DB task is coming from our context dot tasks, right? Dot where wanna like have a where let's see. So task dot where t dot task t error function t dot task ID, right, is equal to task dot task ID, right? And wanna say where this t dot users ID is equal to the current user's ID, right? Because we are trying to find this task that's linked to this user, because only the user who created the task can edit that task, right? Right, so that's fine. So now we would want to check if this task equals to null. So if the task equals to null, then we want to return a bad request, right? Saying you cannot update a non-existing task, right? Non-existing, I don't know if that's one word, right? Okay, so that's fine over there. So if this task doesn't actually exist, then you can't, or if the task is either equals to null, or the task dot task ID, right, is equal to null, right? Or task dot task ID, the task ID is less than equal to 0, right? If it's less than equal to 0, yes, so that shouldn't work. So now what we want to do over here is actually now to check if from the DB, right, this is what we want to update, right? From the DB, we want to update the title, we want to update the user's ID. Now we don't want to update the user ID, right? But we want to update the user's description, task description. This created date shouldn't be updated because this is created once. And then here, yeah, we could update that. And task, yeah, the scheduled date and the completed date, right? So now we'll close it with semicolons instead of the commas, right? So that's what we need. Yes, this is what we need, right? So this will say for this task that we actually need, right? And then now what we need to actually do is actually to check, right? So this is to check if our entry context dot entry dot entry, right? So the entry for this DB task, want to check the status, the state, I mean to say, if the state is marked as like the entity state is marked as modified, right? So let me just come over here, try to do that. Yes, modified. And that's all what we need, right? So yeah, if that is modified, right, and then we want to just have our context dot save async changes, right? But to save the async changes, you need to await. All right, so yeah, that's all you need. Then you can say you have successfully updated a task. You have successfully updated a task. Yeah, that's all we need. Okay, we could just try to, yes, task ID shouldn't be updated and the user ID shouldn't be updated. Yeah, okay. I guess this is what we need. Oh, we need to also have a route for this, right? So the route for this will be coming in from this route, and then we'll just say update task. So wanna say update the task, and stop. Wanna run this guy and actually test it on Postman. So this will be called update task. That's the endpoint for that. Task update. Think and grow rich. Right, that's the book. Let's see. Is it actually? No. First and foremost, let's first do like a get. Let's first do the get because we don't want to update a wrong task. Yeah, so let's first try to do like HTTP get all task method, right? So we'll just have that route right, get all user tasks, right, get all user tasks, yes, right, and then want to just copy this, right, paste, and we don't want a body over here, right? We want to get all those users, we can copy these, right? Just have a try catch. When I have a try catch exception ex and return bad request. This bad request, and this is coming from the exceptions message, right? Then we'll close this out and then just paste these guys over here. We don't need this task, we just want to get if this user actually yeah, want to get tasks that are linked to that user. So we can have a list, of tasks, right? Task, and then it's task list, which is coming from our context dot tasks dot where t error function t dot users id, right, is equal to this user's current user's id, right, dot to list, oh man, dot to list, right, that's what we need, right? I'm gonna get the list if task list, right, is equal to now. No, we don't want that. We just want to return, because if it's empty, then we'll just return an empty array, right? Yes. So what we want to do is actually get all tasks linked to this user, right? Okay, that's actually fine. This will actually do the trick for us. Get all user tasks. I want to get all users tasks. So let's see. So this will be get all users task, and let's get that. Yeah, so that's getting our tasks, right? So this task actually skipped quite some few tasks, but that's fine. Okay, so we do have our tasks, right? Which are these, right? That's actually fine, but we don't want this user, right? Because if we do have the user's data, like like like, since this is a relational database, right, in some case we don't want to like return like a complex object, right? Because that could like potentially make our API slower or like cause some circular referencing. So how we can actually fix that is actually to have like a select which data we actually want to return, right? So t error function new, so we want to say task id dot users id, right? A dot task title t dot task description. Yeah, so we just want that. Let's see. This is just that. Okay. Okay, let me just have this in a var instead. Yes. All right. So that's all we need, because we just don't need that user. But we could always have like the t dot created date, right? T dot scheduled date, right? T dot completed date, right? That's all we need to return. Let's see if the hot reload actually works. No, it doesn't. Let's now oh, that would have gave us like an error. Stop and rerun again. All right, so the get users should actually do the same thing, just ignore that users object, right? So yeah, that's what we needed, right? All right, so now I would want to like update user 1006. Right, okay, I want to update users 1006, right? And think and grow rich. You have successfully updated the user. So now when I get all users, I should actually get think and grow rich, right? And instead of that, we can just say studying, right? Studying that, and that should say studying think and grow rich. Okay, which is actually fine. So now our next thing is actually now to create um our actual get single user, right? Because we've created, updated. Oh, we got like a single user. We got like update, created the task, updated the task, got all users task, and now we want to get like just a single users, a single task. Right, so it gets task by ID basically. So the endpoint for that will be this get task by ID. So this is get task by task ID basically. Async task I action result get task get user task by task by task ID, right? Get task by ID. This is crazy. Get user task by ID. Get user task by use no by task ID. Get user task by task ID. Let's just call it that. I think that makes more sense, right? And this is coming from an int ID, and in our request we need to have like an ID, right, as our parameter that request. And we basically gonna need the same thing that we used here, just the only difference is that now we're just gonna add that task ID, right? So instead of now getting that list, we're just gonna get a single task, right? And then we're just gonna say, yeah, this is gonna be from like the first or default, right? And this will be task and t dot task id is equal to t no equal to id, right? This is equal to this id, and then we'll just be returning that task, right? Okay, so yeah, that's what we basically need to get. So what we want to get over here is actually to say, oh, then we want to check if id is not equal to null, or id is 0. So if the id is null, right, id is null or it's less than that, then we want to return a bad request, right? Have this user, this task does not exist, right? This task does not exist. I think I forgot some check here in this try catch, and this is, oh, we just need to use it. No, that's fine. Okay, yeah, we need a gem, and yeah, that's all we need to get like a single user task by task ID. So we'll now come over here and actually get that, get task by task ID, get user task by task ID. Let's save that. And now if we actually search for task 2, let's stop and rerun. I think this should work. Let's see. Task 2, yes, task 2 should give us that, and task 106, that should give us that. Right, 106. Now if we want to just have task 1, that should give us nothing, right? Because there's actually nothing. Okay, what we can then do is actually now do our delete. Our delete is actually going to be a bit similar to our get task by user task by task ID, right? So actually http delete and then route, this is going to be delete user task by task ID. Delete user task by task ID. Okay, let's just copy all this code over there, and then this will be just delete task user task by task ID. This user is not allowed to use this endpoint. This task does not exist. And then for the delete, we are looking for that task's first or default, right? And then we want to remove that, right? We want to say, okay, now our context dot tasks, right, dot remove. We want to remove this task, right? And then we want to say await, and then task, no, context dot save async, because we've removed our task. Now we want to save that. Okay, that will be then handling for our deleting our task, right? So that's fine. I guess that's fine. So now what we then need to do is actually to, let's see. So we have the current user, right? Validate this if this endpoint can be used by that user. I'm gonna check if that task actually does the ID. We can just say invalid task ID. Yes, this is just an invalid task ID, right? And yeah, now what we can do is actually let's see. So we've got an invalid task ID, remove, right? After we've actually removed that task, we actually save those changes, which is actually fine. Now let's just copy this and add it to our delete. So I don't know. So delete task. So here we'll say delete user user task by task ID, right? Which is what we want to do, right? So we want to save that and actually say but now what we want to do is we can't delete a task that actually doesn't exist. So if this task, right, is equal to null, right, we want to return a bad request. right? And then we want to say you cannot delete a task that does not exist, right? So that's all we needed. Let me stop. I just have trust issues on this hot reload stuff. Yeah. So let's now try it out. So task 3 should give us that this task does not exist, right? So let's execute this. Not found. Which is actually funny, right? So this says it's not found. Let's see why. Yeah, that's because we're not passing in the ID there. Okay, let's stop, rerun this, right? So this should be found, but the actual task shouldn't be found, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let's see. Moment of truth. Yeah, I think this is running get all tasks. This should be able to work. Yes, right. So if you want to delete task 3, you cannot delete a task that doesn't exist. So if we want to delete task 107, right? So if we want to delete that task 107, this should say it should say you've successfully deleted that task instead of returning the actual task. But anyways, so now we see that task is actually deleted. So now let me just have this message: you have successfully deleted a task, right? So hot reload. Let's now see something. So let's say we wanna just, you cannot delete a task that doesn't exist, right? So task, let's try getting a task 1. We don't have anything there. 06. Alright, that does exist. And now let's actually test something, right? So now we want to add like a task, right? But we didn't add this, right? Task title. So if we try to submit that, our actual like validators, right? Class validators, yeah, should actually like give us an error that the task title field is actually required, and this is coming from this declarator over here from our task DTO, this required field, right? That's what it's complaining about. So it actually does its stuff. So what we can also test is if we actually now remove, right? If we actually remove this and actually try to now get all tasks, this should give us an unauthorized, right? So because we aren't actually authorized to actually use this endpoints, so we can just log in. After logging in, we can just come over here, save, right? And yeah, we got that. So now if we try to get all, yes, we can. Now let's try to delete task 106. So if we try to delete task 1006, yes, this task has been deleted. Instead of returning now a task, we have like a, you have successfully deleted this task. So if we try to retrieve that, that should be empty, right? Retrieve task. Now we should get 1 task. Actually, now we can add like a task computer science, right? And then here we can just say study for upcoming test, right? We're gonna remove this because we don't actually need this, right? And this says that is required. Let's see. Yeah, we did. So now if we try to get, now we do get that we have this computer science, okay, upcoming tests. So yeah, uh that's just what we needed. So with all that being said, okay, we could also try to like update, right? um we can have like an update. So we can update like our scheduled time, if I'm not mistaken. So our scheduled right, right. So if we try this should say you cannot update a non-existing that. So 2002, right? 2002, right? So if we update this, you have successfully updated that. So now if we get all tasks, which you see now, we've updated our scheduled task, scheduled dates, right? So yeah, that's all we needed. So if you like this video and you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And peace.